Welcome back to my YouTube channel, where astonishing discoveries, unimaginable fortunes, and mysterious pieces of history come together in stories that you simply won't believe. Whether you're a longtime subscriber or joining us for the first time, get ready to hear the mind-blowing journey of a small, ordinary-looking coin, the 1992 p quarter dollar, that ended up becoming one of the most valuable artifacts in modern history. What began as loose change in someone's pocket would soon send shockwaves through the entire world. It's a story of mystery, betrayal, discovery, and an auction that would make headlines across every continent. The story begins in a quiet suburb of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, in the early spring of 1993. The snow had only recently melted, revealing sidewalks littered with the remnants of winter, salt, twigs, and the occasional bottle cap. Among these forgotten scraps, an elderly widow named Margaret Elwood lived alone in a small, red brick house that her husband had built before the war. She lived modestly on a pension, her days spent in peace, surrounded by memories. Margaret had no heirs, and her connection to the outside world was limited to her church group, her garden club, and the occasional visit to the nearby grocery store. One Friday morning, Margaret stopped by the farmer's market on 3rd Street. After picking out 2 apples, a jar of homemade apple butter, and a loaf of rye bread, she handed a $10 bill to the vendor. He smiled, gave her change, and thanked her. She dropped the coins in her purse without a glance. But among that change, resting between a nickel and a couple of dull pennies, was something unusual, a quarter with a different kind of shine, different texture, and even an unfamiliar sound when it clinked against the others. Margaret, unaware of its uniqueness, placed it in a decorative porcelain dish on her kitchen table and forgot all about it. It remained there for almost 2 decades. The coin's journey truly began when Margaret passed away in 2011 at the age of 94. Her house, filled with decades of collected items, was sold off in an estate sale. Most of the furniture went to neighbors, and the porcelain dish found its way to a local thrift store. A college student named Jordan Whitlock bought the dish for $1.75, thinking it would be a nice addition to his makeshift dorm room decor. The dish was chipped on the side, but he liked its antique look. Weeks passed before Jordan noticed the small quarter inside the dish. He considered spending it, but something about it kept his hand from dropping it into a vending machine. The coin looked off, shinier than a normal quarter, yes, but also more detailed. George Washington's profile was strikingly well defined, almost as if engraved by a master artisan. The edges weren't worn down like most coins of its age, and the reverse side showed the eagle perched with a kind of elegance he'd never noticed before. But what caught his eye most was the mint mark, a sharp, distinct P, and the date, 1992. It looked like any other quarter to the untrained eye. But Jordan, who dabbled in online forums and niche collectibles, had a hunch that he took a photo and posted it on an obscure online forum dedicated to coin anomalies. Within hours, replies flooded the thread. Most were speculative at best, but one user stood out, someone who went by the handle Numismatics_88. They asked Jordan to look closer at the AM, in America, on the reverse side of the coin. Jordan fetched a magnifying glass and examined the coin. The spacing between the A and M was tight, almost fused, unlike most quarters which had a distinct separation. This detail set off alarm bells in the collector world. He'd stumbled upon something that shouldn't exist. Jordan received dozens of messages over the next few days. Some offered him $100, others $500, then a few offered him thousands just for a chance to inspect it in person. One collector, a man named Wesley Dalhart, flew in from Arizona and met Jordan in the Student Union building with a suitcase filled with $80,000 in cash. But Jordan refused. Something told him to wait, to learn more. That choice would change his life. Through Wesley's help, the coin was soon authenticated by the Independent Numismatic Verification Board, a rare and selective institution that had only ever certified 9 coins in the last decade as being national anomalies. After extensive analysis, metallurgical testing, mint stamp verification, and historical archive searches, they confirmed it. The 1992 p quarter Jordan found was the only one of its kind in existence, a coin struck using a retired die intended only for a failed prototype. Back in late 1991, a secret project within the U.S. Mint aimed to redesign the Washington quarter for the upcoming millennium. These prototype dies were never approved. Most were destroyed immediately. But somehow, a single test die had accidentally been used in early production runs at the Philadelphia Mint before being pulled. Only one coin made it into circulation. Margaret Elwood unknowingly received that coin as change from the farmer's market, placing it into her porcelain dish, where it remained hidden from the world for 18 years. Word of the discovery spread like wildfire. Jordan, now overwhelmed by media requests, collectors, museums, and wealthy investors, found himself at the center of a numismatic frenzy. Some called it the Ghost Quarter due to its mysterious origins and the fact that it shouldn't have existed at all. The coin was even featured in the Smithsonian's Lost American Artifacts exhibition, although Jordan still retained ownership. As the coin's fame grew, so did its value. Offers soared, $5 million, then $12 million, then $31 million from an anonymous Middle Eastern collector. Still, Jordan waited. He began researching coin lore, meeting with historians, former Mint employees, and even retired FBI agents who had investigated fraud within the Mint during the early 90s. The deeper he dug, the stranger the story became. Records showed that the test die used to strike his coin had been destroyed, signed off on, and accounted for in an internal Mint report dated December 3, 1991. But the coin was struck after that. A retired Mint employee, now in his 80s and living in Michigan, agreed to an anonymous interview. He revealed that during a heated internal disagreement over artistic direction, one rogue Mint engraver had secretly struck a handful of quarters using the banned die, just to prove its superior craftsmanship. All but one were discovered and melted down during an audit. That last one? It was pocketed by mistake, given as change by a clerk unaware of its worth. Jordan realized he held not just a rare coin, but a relic of rebellion, of artistry clashing with bureaucracy, of hidden defiance cast in metal. The coin had a story as rich as the country it was born in. It became more than a collectible, it became a symbol. By 2024, the coin had become the centerpiece of numismatic fascination across the globe. A Netflix documentary featured Jordan's journey. A best-selling non-fiction book titled The Quarter That Changed Everything spent 32 weeks atop the New York Times bestseller list. Even school curriculums began referencing the coin in modern American culture classes. Then came the auction. Sotheby's agreed to handle it. Their highest estimate was bold, $210 million, but still far less than what happened next. On the night of the auction, the room was filled with billionaires, museum curators, historical foundations, and even a former U.S. president. The bidding opened at $75 million and skyrocketed in under a minute. At one point, the bids jumped by $20 million increments. When the final gavel fell, a private technology tycoon known for collecting historical artifacts had secured the coin, for an unprecedented $611 million. The amount stunned the world. It wasn't just about rarity anymore. It was about owning a moment in time, a slice of American rebellion, a coin that should never have existed but did. The buyer later revealed that he intended to donate the coin to a soon-to-be-built National Heritage and Curiosity Museum in Washington, D.C., where it would be on display for generations to come. Jordan used his newfound wealth to launch a foundation that provided scholarships to students interested in American history, metallurgy, and design. He never let the money change him. He stayed in Philadelphia, got married, and became a guest lecturer at several universities. But he never forgot the feeling of holding that coin for the first time, of knowing something most people never would, that sometimes, the smallest things carry the biggest secrets. To this day, the story of the 1992 quarter dollar continues to inspire collectors, historians, and dreamers across the globe. It reminds us that history hides in plain sight. That great value can exist in the most ordinary places. And that destiny can sometimes be held in the palm of your hand. Thanks for tuning in once again. If you enjoyed that story, there are plenty more mind-blowing tales coming your way. See you in the next one. Next 1990 quarter dollar coin. if you've been with us before, you know we dive deep into stories that seem too wild to be true, but always come wrapped in historical intrigue, mystery, and a touch of the impossible. Today, you're about to hear something truly extraordinary, a tale that involves a single $quarter minted in 1990, marked with the P mint mark, and how it became the most valuable quarter ever recorded in history. That's right. A 25-cent piece, which on the surface looked like any other coin in your pocket, somehow ended up being valued at $101 million. The story behind this coin is not just about the money, it's about a tangled web of secrets, lost time, shadowy collectors, and a mysterious message etched into the coin's past. Buckle up, because this one is unlike anything you've ever heard before. The story begins in 1990 in Philadelphia, where the United States Mint was producing millions of quarter dollars. Most of them, of course, were ordinary, standard copper-nickel-clad coins bearing George Washington's profile on the obverse, and the iconic eagle on the reverse. But among the sea of these coins, a single piece was different. It wasn't supposed to exist. This quarter, known only by its future catalog number P-1990 P-1A, came out of the mint under circumstances that would remain hidden for decades. No one noticed it at the time. Why would they? It looked like every other quarter. But in truth, the coin was already on a path that would make it a legendary piece of numismatic lore. The man who unknowingly received the coin was Raymond Halpern, a janitor at the Philadelphia Mint. He'd been working there for 12 years, quietly doing his job, never asking questions. One night, while cleaning the break room, he found a small cloth bag behind the vending machine. Thinking it was just some lost change, he pocketed it, assuming someone would ask about it later. No one did. Inside were just 6 quarters. He used most of them over the next few weeks for coffee or bus fare, but one of them, this one, he placed on a shelf above his kitchen sink. He said he liked the way it looked. There was something about the color. It had a slightly golden hue under the right light, as though it had a faint patina. Like old bronze. Raymond didn't think much about it. The coin sat on his shelf for over 20 years, untouched, as his life moved on. He retired, moved into a small apartment in New Jersey, and lived alone. Then in 2013, his niece, Lisa Halpern, came to visit. She was an art student with a fascination for anything old, strange, or overlooked. While helping him clean the apartment, she noticed the coin and picked it up. "Where did you get this?" she asked. Raymond shrugged. "From the mint. Years ago." Lisa looked closer and saw something unusual. The edge of the coin had a slight anomaly, a thin, almost imperceptible groove that ran around the edge, unlike anything she'd seen. She didn't know a lot about coins, but something about it felt off. Or rather, too perfect. It had weight, but it didn't feel entirely like standard alloy. Curious, she kept it, thinking it might inspire a project. That coin would soon begin its long, bizarre journey into the center of one of the most shocking valuation stories in coin history. Lisa, still curious a few months later, posted high-resolution images of the coin in an online collectors forum, just to see if anyone could identify the mark. She didn't give her real name, or even mention her uncle's connection to the mint. Almost immediately, the post drew attention. People began speculating. One user claimed it might be a prototype. Another suggested it was part of an experimental alloy test. But the most intriguing comment came from a user with the handle Numismatics, who had only ever posted once before, years earlier. He wrote, "That's not a test coin. That's the coin. Destroy it before they find out you have it." The post vanished 30 minutes later. So did the user's profile. Curious and a bit freaked out, Lisa started doing research. She reached out to Dr. Henrik Blazen, a semi-retired numismatist and former advisor to the American Numismatic Association. She met him in a cluttered office above an antique shop in New York. When she showed him the coin, he didn't speak for over 2 minutes. He just stared at it through a jeweler's loupe. "You have no idea what this is, do you?" he finally asked. Lisa shook her head. "This quarter was a ghost," he said. It wasn't supposed to exist. It's part of something called Project Genesis. She leaned in. What's Project Genesis? According to Blazin, it was an internal mint initiative in 1989 and 1990 that very few people knew about. The idea was to create a small batch of coins embedded with microscopic data, nano inscriptions, that could serve as a kind of digital watermark, hidden from view but encoded with specific information. These were never meant for circulation. They were meant for tracking and internal experiments with authentication, counterfeiting prevention, and asset tracing. The program was abruptly shut down in 1991, and all test coins were ordered destroyed. Except, apparently, one slipped through, and that's what Lisa had. The 1990 P quarter she held was one of the last known examples of what Dr. Blazin called a Genesis-marked coin. Not only that, but when the coin was subjected to high-resolution scanning and spectral analysis, it revealed a staggering truth. Embedded in the alloy were microscopic filaments of rare metals, including rhodium and osmium, layered in patterns that formed a binary code. That code, when translated, was a digital ledger. An early blockchain prototype, created years before blockchain technology became a reality. It was a ledger of transactions, movements, and classified project expenditures at the mint and its contractors during a 5-year period. The implications were explosive. The moment news of the coin leaked out, everything changed. Lisa began receiving anonymous emails offering millions, first 3, then 5, then 15, for the coin. She ignored them, but the pressure grew. One night, her apartment was broken into, and only one thing was missing: the envelope she had kept the coin in. Luckily, she had already moved it to a safety deposit box. By 2015, the coin had become something of a myth in collecting circles. Known only as the Genesis quarter, it was spoken of with reverence, disbelief, and in some cases, fear. It wasn't just the coin's physical properties or the technology embedded within it. It was what the code revealed. Several high-profile resignations in government agencies occurred around the same time that the coin's ledger began circulating in encrypted forms on the dark web. No one ever proved the connection, but those who understood what the coin contained knew that it had exposed a level of fiscal manipulation that rewrote everything we thought we knew about that era. A private auction was arranged, behind closed doors, with 4 anonymous bidders. The coin sold in Switzerland to an unnamed buyer who bid through a shell corporation. The final sale price was $101 million. It shattered all previous records for U.S. coinage and instantly made the Genesis quarter the most valuable coin in the world, but the story didn't end there. 2 years after the sale, a former Mint employee named Carl Weskier contacted an investigative journalist with a strange tale. He claimed he'd been part of the original Project Genesis team and had knowledge of not 1, but 3 coins produced under the project. He insisted 2 were destroyed, but 1 went missing during the project's final week. He described the night it vanished, a forced evacuation, and a mysterious fire in one of the Mint's archival rooms. He believed someone intentionally saved the coin, knowing its value. When asked if he thought Raymond Halpern had done it, Weskier shook his head. Raymond was just in the right place at the right time. He didn't know. But someone knew. Someone wanted that coin out in the world. As rumors swirled about the existence of a second Genesis quarter, collectors grew obsessed. Anonymous bounties were posted online. A private coin fund even offered a standing reward of $20 million for any credible evidence of a second Genesis coin. None was ever found. Lisa Halpern vanished from public view. Her social media went dark. Her family refused to speak to the press. She was last seen boarding a private jet in Oslo in 2017, reportedly funded by the same entity that purchased the coin. Some believe she's living in seclusion in the Mediterranean. Others think she's continuing the research, trying to unlock more of the embedded code. A few even claim she discovered a second Genesis coin and is holding it until the world is ready for what it contains. And what did it contain? That's the lingering question. Because after the initial revelations, the full binary ledger extracted from the coin was never made public. Only fragments. Dr. Blazin died in 2019 in what the medical examiner called a stroke, but others believe it was something more sinister. A leak from an intelligence operative hinted that the Genesis coin might have included coordinates, encrypted map points relating to something buried, hidden, or otherwise off the public record. If that's true, then the Genesis quarter wasn't just an experiment. It was a key to what, though? That's what keeps the story alive. Over 30 years after its minting, this single 1990p quarter has come to represent something far larger than its face value. It's not just a coin. It's a window into a hidden chapter of history, a bridge between analog metal and digital secrets. It's the embodiment of value, monetary, historical, technological, and conspiratorial, all melted into one tiny object you could hold in your hand.